Hello my friends and welcome to this playthrough for Pro Division with the tournament Wind. This video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and let's go. We're going to start off with hole number 1 of the tournament holes. We're going to play from the second tee, which is Pro and Expert tee, but this is going to be on Pro. We're going to take out a Titan here. We are playing with an extra mile. The spin adjustment that we're going to have is to be one top spin. The reason we're going to use one top spin and drag our club out a little bit and adjust from there is because that the bounce is going to come in very hot, and that is because we do have tailwind. 5.6, we're going to adjust this one for approximately around 2.5 to 3 rings, depending on how much distance that we do want to have on our bounce. As you can see here, we do have a correct bounce, but we did hit it great on the right side, which led us to cut the rough and get out there to the fairway. And when you need to have in mind, while bouncing the ball in tailwind means that the first bounce will be more flatter, so it will be a longer bounce. When it comes to headwind, it will go more straight up in the air, which means that it will lose distance. So 2.5 rings for our extra mile level 6, and we're going over there with 1 bar of topspin. Our opponent here is going to do basically the same type of shot, a little bit differently, but I do like to take just 1 bar of topspin and not go with any type of backspin or any type of curl whatsoever, because we do have straight wind, so we can just use the wind instead of having to make it harder than it actually is. So for the second shot here, we're going to play with our Guardian. And the reason we're going to go with the Guardian is that we do want to have some distance for our second shot. But when we do have this type of wind and we do make our shot that we did before as good with our driver, then we could go with the sniper instead, that we do have distance for. So we're going to go with 4 bars of backspin. I'm just going to line up, as you can see there, on that flat platform just by the rough there. We're going to adjust this one to be approximately 4 rings, just a little bit less than 4 rings. And as you can see on our ball guideline, we did aim further, like very short towards the pin. The reason we did that is because we know that the ball will come in hot because it has tailwind to go with. Therefore, the bounce again will bounce more further. So when you adjusting, for an example, with a sniper, you do not want the ball guideline to go straight in the hole. So you do want to use that position, do want to use 4 bars of backspin, give a little bit of room for the bounce to actually extend the ball guideline a little bit for you with your shot. So, and as you can see here, our opponent's going with a sniper here, and it's going to be definitely a good opportunity for an albatross from this particular distance. Bouncing it in, as you can see here, even though aimed a little bit short towards the pin with the ball guidelines, still having no problem to get to the pin. So we're going to go to hole number 2 now. This is one of the new holes, and we're going to play it very conservative. And with conservative, I mean that we're going to not go with a full blast overpower, try to go over in the middle, even though we could try to do it with a berserker and a maximum topspin, but then we risk a lot more than going on the left side. So we're going to line up with max side spin with a Titan combined with 1 bar of topspin. We still have the extra mile level 6, and we're going to adjust this one a little bit more than the ring guide says. We're going to go with a little bit more than 2 rings, so we're approximately going to adjust for 5.5 miles per hour, around that, and that is because to counter for the bounce that we're going to have. Again, have in mind, bouncing it in tailwind is going to extend the ball guideline on our driver and also reach further, so then we need to adjust for that while wanting to hit up there on the fairway. Then you maybe wonder, why, Tommy, do you only use 1 bar of topspin and maybe not just more topspin and less distance with your driver? That is because you do have more control with just 1 bar of topspin instead of having maximum topspin, because then you need to rely on all the bounces and the roll of the ball to be in your favor. Our opponent here is going to go on the right side, and as you will be able to see, the right side it's absolutely in play, but I will say that you need to reach a little bit further than that. You need to go at least for where the fairway do turn and be able to have an open shot towards the pin. Now we do have a garden here again, and as you can see, we stretched it out, so we are basically in maximum distance with our guardian. The thing that we need to have in mind with this shot is that, again, this bounce is going to push ourselves a lot longer than we actually want to. So the ball guideline is basically going to be adjusted as we now are way more to the left by the pin than it actually shows. Going to go with 3.5 rings for this adjustment. That is according to the ball guide, according to the ring guide, if we would be in maxed out max distance on our guardian level 6. But as you can see here with the bounce, you can see how long that bounce was, and we're coming in not way, but we're coming in a lot more to the left. So we can choose two ways here. Either we add one more ring in our adjustment, so we go with, instead of 3.5, we go with 4.5 rings, or we can in that case use our ball guide position on the green way more to the right, so actually over adjust the ball guideline position while going towards the pin. So hole number 3, and hole number 3 is definitely going to be a hole-in-one hole in my opinion. I really do like it. I do suggest that you're using a long iron that do have some curl combined with a ball with a lot of side spin. So a katana will be perfect. As you can see, we're lining it up there. We're going to want to use 2 bars of backspin, and we want the end of the ball guideline on our Goliath level 6 to be on the top there of the fringe. As you can see here when we zoom in just a little bit, we want to aim with our landing position for the first bounce on the left side of the fairway. We are adjusting it according to having our long iron in maximum distance. Important to have in mind. Max curl with the Goliath level 6. We do have a little bit too little curl in my opinion, which means that we are going to come in a little bit short, as you can see, but still it's going to be a very good shot, and we did get it very close to a hole-in-one. The thing that of course we do want to have is a little bit more curl, or we need to have a little bit more luck with the wind, that it points a little bit more to the left than to the right. But to not having the luck factor by the wind to decide the outcome of your shot, if you do have a Saturn for example that do have just a tiny bit more curl, then go with that instead. But as you can see, we did adjust it with 2 bars of backspin, and we had the ball guidelines end of the Goliath level 6 on the top there of the fringe. So that is going to be our standard adjustment, and then we're going to adjust according to the ring guide for being with a long iron in maximum distance, and then max curl combined with max side spin on a ball that could be a katana or a kingmaker, but it is important to give yourself that max side spin to the left. So we're going to go to hole number 4 now, and hole number 4 is going to be one of the old holes. And you know, hole number 4 is going to be a tricky one in the way that you really need to rely on the first bounce on your driver. For those that watched a couple of streams yesterday, saw me go into the rough 3 out of 3 times when I played. Still managed to make the birdie though, but in the end that is not something that you can do, because you really want to give yourself that opportunity for the eagle on from distance. So hole number 4 will be tough, but in the end if you make your drive, then you're going to have a good eagle opportunity. And that is why I kind of it's a love-hate relationship to this hole, to be honest, because if I just make the drive, then I love the hole because I really like the adjustment towards the pin. But if I don't make the drive, then I'm going to have a very, very tough time to reach for the green in 2. So it's so much mixed emotions for this particular hole. So we're going to go with a Titan here. We do want to have some distance for this shot, and we do have an extra mile level 6, as you can see. Max topspin on our driver, which is a little bit more than 4 bars of topspin. We're going to adjust this one as we would be stretched out in maxed overpowered position to just see how the ball guideline will react. We do adjust this one approximately 3 rings, and the reason we go with 3 rings and 3 rings plus, I would say 3 to 4 rings will be good for this adjustment. That is because this ball will be affected a little bit more by the wind as we're playing with water on the side. We get it perfectly there, and we are very happy with this shot. We're going to have basically tailwind for our second shot, and that is something that of course is a little bit, sorry, sidewind. That is of course something that it's a little bit easier to adjust for than having like tailwind or having headwind. Our opponent here, as you can see, were not able, sorry, I take that away, is choosing another approach. And another approach in that way is that he's using long iron to bounce it over towards the green. It is possible to do so, but it's definitely not an eagle way in my opinion. So our turn now, and we're going to go with our Guardian again to give us that distance. As I talked about before, we do need distance of this hole. We can rely on the ball guideline. When it comes to the Guardian, that is one mistake that we actually do. We use 2 bars of backspin. I know I've said with 2 bars of backspin it should be good in general for our wood club, but we kind of forget, or I did forgot, that actually the bounce is slightly different depending on if you're having a sniper or if you're having a Guardian. So going to go with 1 bar of backspin, and we're going to adjust this one. Adjust this shot. We do have 6.3 in wind, adjusting for 5, slightly less than 5 rings, but we still over adjust this shot just a tiny bit. The reason we do so is because we want to adjust it a little bit more for the crosswind that we do have, and also that we're playing with water on the side, which means that the ball will be affected a little bit more by the wind. As you can see there, for the rough bump we get it very close, and with the perfect that might have gotten in, but definitely a good opportunity to get not a free eagle, but at least an eagle that could be very crucial in this tournament. So we're going to see here now with the rough iron shot as well for our opponent, but it doesn't really matter. The importance here is that we get this hole down. So when it comes to the drive again, we need to reach over, and that is very, very important. Second shot, rough bump, would be the best suggestion there. So we go to hole number 5, and now we're going to go back and play with the sniper. Only the sniper here from this distance. The reason for that is that we do want to use the ball guideline. We're going to use a katana or a kingmaker. The reason we're going to use one of those balls is because we do want the side spin on our ball, and also like to be having an easier time to bounce it on the right side in towards the left side. And I know there is a bunch of players that are using the rough bump, and I don't blame you. It's definitely a way to get close to the pin, but I do feel very consistent while playing on the right side. I also feel that if I do hit my ball great in any of the ways, like left or right, I'm still going to have a very good way to just land it on green, not making a hole-in-one though, but going to have an easy birdie putt from that distance. The problem with going for the rough bump is that the rough bump can be very inconsistent if you just hit it slightly wrong in the rough. And by going like a bounce very close there to the rough, you're most likely going to have a long putt, as our opponent is going to have. So our turn now, and as I said, we're going to play with the sniper, and we're going to go with a katana ball. We're going to change the ball here as well. We do not want to have the titan, I thought. So we're going to oh my god, I take that back. We're going to have the titan, but we should switch to a katana, guys. We should switch to a katana. But the adjustment here, we're going to play in headwind, which means that the ball will be affected a little bit more by the bounce. I know we have talked about that a little bit, but we're going to adjust this one for approximately 8, we are going to adjust this one for 8, slightly over 8 rings. And as you can see, the sniper, when we adjust for it, is 1 mile per hour per ring, and then we should adjust for slightly over 7 rings, but we do adjust it a little bit more. The reason for that is that this ball with the bounce in headwind is going to lose distance with the ball's roll, so that therefore we're going to have to adjust it just a little bit more, but use a katana or a kingmaker instead, so you do not have to curl it that much that we did. Hole number 6 now. We are halfway through, and we are going to look at this hole number 6 as absolutely a chance for an albatross. I know I did take these holes as Oh, it's going to be very, very tricky to get an albatross or like even close to it if we do have some headwind. But now we're going to have some decent wind, especially here on hole number 6. The thing that we want to do is that we do want to go for the double bounce. And the double bounce is something that I will be going with in all of my accounts. The reason for that is that I do believe it's going to be so much more easier to do so. And if we do get a little bit too hot, coming in there a little bit too hot with our driver, then we're going to use the rough to just roll down towards the green and still have an open shot towards the pin. So we use a Titan for the distance, max topspin on our drive. No matter what type of driver you're going to have, you do want to stretch out the adjustment so you can see the ball guideline for the second bounce that bounces over the second piece of a rough. And we're going to adjust that one for a little bit more than 3 rings, and we're going to adjust it in a way so we do not have to overpower our shot, which is important in that way because we want to stay away from the overpower situation. Get it to bounce, as you can see, and then we want to bounce just by there, and we get it up there, and we get a very good roll there on the last fairway, and going to have no problem whatsoever to reach for the green into. And of course, as you can see here, for our opponent here in the rough or in the bunker, you will not be able to reach for the green into. So it's very, very important to just make the drive as easy as you can and just put yourself on fairway. This is going to be a tournament like that you need to put yourself on the fairway, on the green, to be able to make a reasonable score. And of course, if you miss, then you're going to have to struggle, and then you can put yourself in the rough again, and then the circle is starting with the hard part there. So you can see how we're going with the big dog. And we're going to adjust this one without any topspin. We're going to rely on the tailwind that's going to push ourselves towards the green. We're going to want our ball to roll up to the left side, to fall back down. You're going to see on the green then that it's actually going to fall down to the right. We're going to adjust for 3 rings here. And then just adding just a tiny little bit, so 3.2 rings approximately for our adjustment. And we're going to go with shot. We hit it perfect, and as you can see here now, look at this roll down towards the pin. We're going to come in a little bit short, but still having no problem to reach towards the pin. We do have a good distance on our shot, and definitely going to have a good opportunity to make the albatross. And we played with the big dog level 6, which is a good club to use there due to the distance. Hole number 7. Now we come to the last par 3, and the last par 3 here we're going to play with a rough bump. So we're going to play with a rough bump for rookie and pro, and then we're going to play for a single bounce on expert and master. So first we're going to check here, are we going to want to be using the backspin of our quarterback? No, we won't. We don't want to. The reason for that is that we do not have enough backspin. If you do want to go for a single bounce, use the rocket if you do have it in level 10 with maxed backspin. So we do want to bounce here in the rough, and we're going to adjust it for slightly over 2 bars of backspin. And then we're going to adjust this one for 6.5 rings. And you're going to see our adjustment is going to be just a little bit rushed here in the end. So and we are going to want to hit the rough here by hitting our ball perfect. We do have some side spin to the right as well to give ourselves the push into the right that we want to. We're getting it kind of close towards the pin. We are very happy with that shot, and definitely a possible hole-in-one in my book. The thing to stay away from there is to really have to rush it as we did. And of course, don't play it on that fairway position where our opponent was aiming there in the first. But you know, when you are going to play a shot in the rough is going to be it's not going to be your best friend all the time. So it's very important that you do know how many bars of backspin, how many rings that you're going to adjust. When I adjust my driver there, I went with a ring adjustment that were in between minimum and maximum distance. I know the club is in minimum distance, but I want to add just a tiny little bit to just counter a little bit for the elevation that is a little bit downhill on that hole. So we're going to go to hole number 8 now, and this is definitely a good opportunity to make an eagle. I would say this is definitely the easiest hole in the whole tournament. We're going to go with a Titan here. We do want to have a little bit more topspin. Sorry, we do want to have a little bit more tailwind than we have with the Kingmaker. And because we want to use the wind. Max topspin on our club and ball, and max side spin to the left. And then we want to adjust this one for around 2.5 to 3 rings. So you can see we're still going to have the overpower shot, and that is why we stretch out our club to see are we needed to overpower or not. We're going to go with max overpower, and we're going to go with curl to the left. To counter for if we do hit our ball great on the right side, we do want to have the curl to kind of get us into the left anyway. But as you can see there, we did have slightly around 5 bars of topspin on our driver, and that is going to be enough. If you do have more on your club, for an example, if you do have an Apocalypse level 6 or something like that playing here in Pro, or you maybe have an extra maxed out level 8 that has more topspin, you have a big topper, then you do not use the maxed out topspin. It's enough to have 5 bars of topspin and then go with more overpower instead, so you don't put yourself in the rough on the top. I've done that myself, that I use too much topspin, and that is of course very unfortunate. It's still going to be a decent opportunity with the rough iron or the sandwich, but in the end that is something that we need to stay away from. Now we do have our second shot, and we are going to play this one with our thorn. And the thorn is something that we do of course love in this particular situation. We're going to check first. We are in basically minimum distance, a minimum distance plus, I would say, but I can say from this particular distance we need to adjust this one as we would be in minimum distance of our club. A minimum distance of our club is going to be just slightly more than 2 rings when we have 7.5 miles per hour. So you can see me here, as you can see I'm using the take shot button as a reference. I'm going to just add just a little bit more than 2 rings. It was not much, but just a tiny little bit. Then we want to go for the rough bump. Get it to bounce here. We're getting it to roll when we take the edge of the hole and make it fall down for an eagle. So, and of course you need to stretch your club out there to kind of see how far is my club, like from minimum, is it medium or is it maximum. Of course you have to do a little bit of guesswork in the way if you are in between different situations, but kind of understand your club in that way, and then of course decide, okay, yeah, I'm in minimum distance of my club, I'm in medium distance, I'm in maximum distance. And of course the rings are going to be is going to change due to how far you are from the pin. The further you are from the pin, the more the ring, the less the rings value is going to be worth. The less distance you have to do towards the pin, the more the rings value is going to be worth. So as you can see there, 2 rings for us was approximately 7.3 in that way. So we got the eagle though, very happy with that. And now we're going to go to hole number 9. And hole number 9 is going to of course be a very tough hole, and it's going to be in my opinion the tiebreaker hole, because here you can lose an eagle, or you can, here you can see it as you can lose an eagle or you can win an eagle, because this eagle, due to the tiebreaker rules where the eagles are very important, especially if you do not have any albatrosses, then this eagle is kind of crucial. And you have seen me play the regular hole with different type of wind and stuff like that, and before the tournament, but now we're actually getting a wind that is going to be possible for us to get this one to green in 2. So definitely something that you need to have in mind, that it's absolutely possible for you to get this one to green in 2. But then you need especially one thing. You need a driver with a good amount of curl combined with a good amount of topspin. Therefore, we're going to go with a big topper. We do have it in level 5. It's going to absolutely be enough to go with a big topper, even if you have it in level 3 or level 4. That is going to be absolutely enough. Maybe going to have to overpower it just slightly when it comes to level 3. Maxed out topspin, we're going to adjust this one as we would be in maximum distance of our club, which we are, which is going to be a little bit more than 2 rings, approximately 2.5 rings with our adjustment. Then we're going to go with max amount of curl that we do have on our club. As you can see, we're using a decent amount of curl, and we're going to curl it in here. The thing that we need to have in mind here is that the thing that we do forget is that we're going to get our ball to curl in the wind, which is going to give us tailwind. So we again need to have in mind that our ball guideline is going to be stretched out due to the bounce in tailwind. I know it's very technical, please make a comment if you do not understand and I will happily explain to you. But you know, in the way that the wind is working, we curl it in tailwind, we get a bounce, a tailwind bounce that is going to give us a more flatter bounce, but we're going to reach further on with our shot. So now we are in the bunker, so now we can decide here, sure, we can go with max overpower with our Spitfire, which is going to be one of the toughest shots in the game, or we can play ourselves up short. With the thing I mean with play ourselves up short is that we do want to try to get over to that second piece of fairway. We are not going to adjust with any type of topspin, as this ball is going to be affected way more by the wind. We're going to go with 3 rings when it comes to our Spitfire level 2 here. I'm going to go with slight amount of curl combined with the side spin that we do have on our ball, and no backspin or no topspin. As you can see, we are bouncing it over here, and now we're going to absolutely have a really good opportunity to make an eagle with our wedge. So, and from this particular distance, I can just take this one real quick. If you find yourself in a situation, you may not have the driver to go with that particular shot that I did, or you may find yourself in rough or in the bunker, so you cannot reach over to the right side, and you need to play yourself up short on the left side. Then it's very important that you're using a short iron and a long iron that gives you a good amount of backspin, like for an example the Thorn or the Saturn as a long iron, and that is because the pin stands short. So we're going to adjust this one with a rapier. I'm going to adjust this one for 3.5 in backspin, as you will see in the end. The reason we're going to want to go with this particular adjustment is that I feel a little bit more comfortable by going with a regular ship instead of going with a dunk from this position, especially when I do not want to risk hitting the pin, etc. So we're going to adjust this one for approximately 1 ring. I'm going to take a shot. So we make the eagle on this hole number 9. Very happy with that. So it's absolutely possible to make the eagle even though you don't reach for the green in 2. But definitely this is a way that you actually can secure an eagle in a better way. So my friends, thanks a lot for watching this playthrough with the correct tournament wind. I did try to be a little bit more detailed in my description, so please give me some thoughts about that in the comment section below as well. If you do have any questions, make a comment, and this video is sponsored by Playdemic and Golf Clash, and I want to wish you here in the end the best of luck in the Desert Open tournament.